Welcome to today's Cal Grant 101 training video, where we will cover the basics about our Cal Grant program. This is our agenda for today. We will go over Cal Grants A, B, and C, the eligibility requirements for students, GPAs, the application process on how to be awarded a Cal Grant, and how you can help. Let's begin with Cal Grants A, B, and C. To start, Cal Grants are need-based, meaning students must meet income and asset thresholds as well as have sufficient financial need. Cal Grants must also be used at eligible colleges in California. Schools must meet specific criteria around graduation rate, federal loan default rate, and participation in at least 2 federal programs to be eligible for a Cal Grant award. You can view a list of the most current Cal Grant eligible schools list in the link provided at the bottom of the slide. Cal Grants are for undergraduate programs. Students who have obtained a bachelor's degree are not eligible. Students can receive a Cal Grant award for a maximum of 4 years or 400% eligibility. However, students enrolled in teaching credential programs and mandatory fifth-year programs are the exception to this as they are eligible for a Cal Grant award. Cal Grant maximum lifetime eligibility is based on education level, or EL, at the time students receive their first Cal Grant payment. For example, students who are awarded a Cal Grant as a freshman in college will receive the award for 4 years, while sophomores receive 3 years of Cal Grant, juniors receive 2, and seniors will only receive 1 year of Cal Grant. Colleges do establish their own EL policy around completed units and maximum allowable transfer units. Now that I've given you a quick overview of the Cal Grant programs, let's dive into Cal Grants A, B, and C. Now there are 3 basic Cal Grants. Here are the maximum award amounts for each Cal Grant depending on which school segment the student attends and which type of Cal Grant they are eligible for. Since Cal Grant award amounts are specific to the college segment, every student at any UC with a Cal Grant A, for example, receives the same Cal Grant award amount of $14,436. Now let's begin with Cal Grant A. Cal Grant A has a minimum GPA requirement of 3.0 if using a high school GPA or 2.4 if using a community college GPA. Cal Grant A can be used for programs that are 2 or more years long, like an associate's or bachelor's degree program, and covers tuition and fees at 4-year colleges, like at a UC, CSU, and some private schools. Students going to a community college will have their Cal Grant A award put in a CC reserve for up to 2 years, where their award will be put on hold until they transfer to a 4-year institution. However, students with dependents and/or foster youth students attending a community college may receive an Access Award amount of up to $6,000. Cal Grant B has a minimum GPA requirement of 2.0 if using a high school GPA or a 2.4 if using a community college GPA and is available at any eligible school. Students attending a UC, CSU, or private nonprofit institution will only receive the Access Award amount during their freshman year. However, students will be awarded both the tuition and fees amount and an additional Access Award during their sophomore to senior years. Students attending a community college will only receive the Access Award amount. Finally, Cal Grant C is for vocational or technical programs at a California community college or a nonprofit or for-profit technical or trade school. It is the only Cal Grant that does not have a GPA requirement. If you'd like to know more, please be sure to visit our website or to watch our video all about the commission programs that are currently available. The link is provided at the bottom of the slide. So there are 3 different Cal Grants, A, B, and C, which can be confusing, but the good thing is that students do not need to remember all the little details because they are not applying for a specific Cal Grant. They simply need to list their income and assets and the colleges being considered on the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application and apply on time. And from there, our award processing system, WebGrants, will automatically process all completed applications with a matched GPA for Cal Grant consideration. And if you did not know, listing a campus from every segment, community college, CSU, UC, and private school will ensure that students will receive maximum consideration for all types of Cal Grants. So we highly recommend that you tell your students to list a college from those 4 different segments so they can compare the different financial aid offers from different schools. Next, let's talk about Cal Grant B for foster youth. While Cal Grant B has been around for quite some time now, the AB 1809 trailer bill extends the application window, application deadline, and lifetime Cal Grant eligibility for foster youth receiving a Cal Grant B who were in foster care at any point since age 13. Foster status is automatically verified by the California Department of Social Services. One of the expansions for Cal Grant B for foster youth is that foster youth students are still eligible for the high school entitlement or the E1 award if they are under age 26 at the start of the award year when they submit a high school GPA. Non-foster youth students usually only have a 2-year window to qualify for the E1 award as a high school senior and prior year graduate, but foster youth students have a much larger application window. Next, foster youth students are also given a maximum eligibility amount of up to 8 years or 800% of full-time enrollment, as opposed to a traditional 4 years or 400% eligibility for non-foster students. This means that a foster student who is awarded as a freshman in college could receive this award for 8 years instead of the traditional 4 years or until they receive their bachelor's degree. And finally, the Cal Grant application deadline for non-foster students is on March 2nd, but foster youth students can take advantage of the September 2nd deadline if they are attending a California community college. We also have the Foster Youth Access Award and the Students with Dependents Award. The Foster Youth Access Award was created with the goal of enabling more foster students to receive financial aid to attend college. Students who were in foster care on or after age 13 and have not reached age 26 by the start of the award year meet the age criteria for the Foster Youth Access Award. The Students with Dependents Award pays student parents with children under 18 years old for whom they provide more than 50% support. These programs are considered add-ons to a Cal Grant award, which means they either add or increase an Access award depending on the student's enrollment level. Students who are awarded a Cal Grant A or B can receive a maximum Access award amount of $6,000, and students awarded a Cal Grant C can receive a maximum Access award amount of $4,000. Students who qualify for both the Foster Youth Access Award and the Cal Grant for Students with Dependents will be auto-selected for the Foster Youth Access Award. CSAC also has a great volunteer and community service program that works in tandem with the Cal Grant. It is called the California DREAM Act Service Incentive Grant, or DSIG for short. The grant encourages California DREAM Act applicant students with the Cal Grant B Award to perform community or volunteer service hours. Students volunteering at a qualifying service organization can earn up to $4,500 per year when they complete 300 hours of community or volunteer service and attend a community college, UC, CSU, or private nonprofit institution. The grant will be available to students for up to 8 semesters or up to 12 quarters, while they have an active Cal Grant B award or a Cal Grant A award that meet the criteria for a Cal Grant B. You can visit the link provided on the slide for program details. And to request a list of qualifying service organizations, please email the DSIG team at dsig@csac.ca.gov. Next, we will cover student eligibility requirements. To start, students must meet basic eligibility requirements to receive a Cal Grant. Most of the Cal Grant eligibility criteria mirrors the federal Pell Grant requirements with some additional components. Students must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen who are permanent residents or meet AB 540 eligibility criteria. Students need to have been a California resident for 1 year or must be AB 540 eligible if applying with the CADA. Students must have a GPA or equivalent submitted when applying. Students must maintain satisfactory academic progress or SAP standards according to AB 789. Students must be enrolled at least half-time. Students do not already have a bachelor's or professional degree. Students must attend a qualifying California college, and students must not be incarcerated. Let's talk a little bit more about the California residency requirement. In order for a student to establish California residency, they must have been continuously present in California, and they must intend on making California their permanent residency by establishing legal ties to California. So, if a student is under 18 years old, their state of residency is based on their parents. If a student is married or over 18 years old, their state of residency is based on the student. The Commission makes the initial determination based on what is provided on the financial aid application, but institutions do make the final residency determination based on their residency policy. One of the Cal Grant requirements is that students are income qualified. As one requirement, a student's total family income must be within the ceiling for their family size. For example, based on this chart, a student who has a family size of 4 needs to have an income of $71,500 to qualify for Cal Grant B. If the student is a dependent student, only their parents' income and assets are used. If the student is deemed independent, then only the student's income and their spouse's income are used. The ceilings are also broken down by family size and the different grant types, Cal Grant A, B, and C. Eligibility is based on the adjusted gross income reported on the FAFSA or the CADA. Now I do want to talk about this occurrence we call the no Cal Grant zone. The most important factors that determine eligibility and the type of Cal Grant students will receive are family size, family income, and GPA. You can see a significant difference in the maximum income ceiling for Cal Grant B and the income ceiling for Cal Grant A and C. This is because Cal Grant B is designed for lower income families. Don't forget that in order to get a Cal Grant A, students need a minimum 3.0 GPA. The minimum GPA for a Cal Grant B is a 2.0. So, to be awarded a Cal Grant B, a student whose family size is 4, for example, must have an income of $71,500 and have a minimum GPA of 2.0. Every year, thousands of students are disqualified from receiving a Cal Grant because their family income is above the threshold for their family size, and the student does not have the minimum required GPA. This is why we call it the no Cal Grant zone, because if the student falls in the situation where the family makes too much income but the student does not have the minimum GPA, they will not be eligible for a Cal Grant. So with a little academic effort, the students can improve their GPAs and therefore improve their chances of getting a Cal Grant. So we encourage students to strive for a 3.0. This chart can be found on the Commission's website and is updated every year. We highly recommend that you make the most up-to-date version available to high school students and their parents every year, beginning with your freshman class. Students whose family income exceeds the Cal Grant threshold could still get the middle class scholarship if they are attending a CSU or a UC. Moving forward, in addition to meeting income and asset requirements, students must have sufficient financial need every year to receive the Cal Grant. The Commission offers preliminary awards based on unmet need, which is calculated using the college's cost of attendance minus the SAI or the student index derived from the FAFSA or CADA. The minimum financial need for students awarded a Cal Grant A or a Cal Grant C must be the maximum award amount plus $1,500. For Cal Grant B, the minimum financial need must be at least $700. Effective in the 24-25 academic year, AB 789 requires all Cal Grant eligible institutions to adhere to a common set of SAP standards and develop or implement policies that are consistent with federal standards. An institution's SAP policies must include these elements that follows AB 789. Schools must have a qualitative component such as a GPA, a quantitative component such as a PACE, a maximum time frame, which is 150% of their normal program length, an incremental measurement, which is how often SAP is checked, an appeal process, and procedures for establishing SAP eligibility. Now, very important, schools can no longer have SAP policies that are more stringent than the federal standards. Schools must check the students' SAP before dispersing funds to them. And finally, we want to talk about consortium agreements. A consortium agreement is a contractual agreement between colleges or universities which recognizes the student is registered at more than one school for financial aid purposes. This is common in instances where students attend multiple community colleges part-time, but cumulatively have at least half-time status, which is the minimum requirement to receive a Cal Grant payment. Here in the Sacramento area, we have the Los Rios Community College District, which comprises of 4 campuses. Students who are enrolled at least half-time between all affiliated campuses can receive a Cal Grant payment. Whichever campus is listed as the designated payer in the consortium agreement makes the payments. A consortium agreement is also typical when your school has a study abroad program. Next, let's talk about GPAs. To start, the Cal Grant application process consists of a completed on-time financial aid application, either the FAFSA or the CADA, and an on-time GPA that has been matched to the financial aid application. Both the application and the GPA must be received by the deadline to give students Cal Grant consideration. Before we talk about the Cal Grant GPAs, it is important to provide some context and information about the different Cal Grant award cycles. We have 2 main types of Cal Grant award cycles. We've got entitlement and competitive, and we also have other cycles. Students who qualify for an entitlement award are guaranteed to receive a Cal Grant as there is no limit to the entitlement awards. Students who do not qualify for an entitlement award are then considered for a competitive award, which are limited in number. Now let's begin with entitlement awards. First, we have E1, or the High School Entitlement Award. This is for high school seniors and prior year graduates, and E1 awards are processed beginning in November. Next, we have E2, or the Transfer Entitlement Award. This is for students without a Cal Grant who transfer from a California community college to a 4-year university. E2 awards are processed beginning in March. Finally, we have E3, or the California Community College Entitlement Award. This is for students attending a community college. E3 awards are processed beginning in September. Under the competitive cycle, we have the C1 Competitive Award. This is for students who are not eligible under E1, E2, or E3, and competitive awards are processed beginning in April. And finally, under our other cycles, we have C3 or Cal Grant C. This is for students enrolled in a certificated vocational or technical trade program. The application deadline for Cal Grant C is on September 3rd, and awards are processed beginning in April. And finally, we have the Cal Grant Renewal Awards. Cal Grants renew if all terms are satisfied with a valid transaction and students have at least 10% remaining eligibility left. Cal Grant Renewal Awards are processed approximately June or July of every year. Now, this might be a little confusing for your students to follow. However, just like with Cal Grants A, B, and C, students are not applying for a specific Cal Grant award cycle. The timing from which they graduated high school or the type of school they are attending will determine which Cal Grant cycle they fall into. Now let's get into the Cal Grant GPAs and deadlines. The Commission uses GPAs from both high schools and colleges to determine Cal Grant eligibility for the various award cycles, E1, E2, E3, and C1. And while there are 2 deadlines, March 2nd is a priority deadline for most award cycles, excluding the E3 Community College Entitlement Award and the C3 Cal Grant C Award, whose deadlines land on September 2nd. But for a rule of thumb, we recommend that all students still submit a FAFSA or a CADA by that March 2nd priority deadline. Now on this chart, you will see other preliminary requirements that will be needed for each Cal Grant award cycle. These conditions must be met in order for the student to be awarded a Cal Grant. Students awarded a Cal Grant under the E1 High School Entitlement Award Cycle will need to verify that they have graduated high school on their Web Grants for Students account. E2 transfer entitlement students will need to complete the G6 transfer certification on their Web Grants for Students portal. E3 community college entitlement students will need to be on the community college's enrollment file, which will be done on the school's end. Students awarded a competitive Cal Grant will need to score at or above the scoring matrix. And finally, Cal Grant C students will need to complete the Cal Grant C supplemental form in their Web Grants for Students account. As mentioned in the previous slide, a high school or college GPA is required for Cal Grants A and B. As a reminder, Cal Grant C, specific to vocational or technical certificated programs, is the only Cal Grant that does not require a GPA. But a high school GPA must be submitted to the Commission for the E1 High School Entitlement Award consideration, even for dually enrolled students. If your student management system does not calculate Cal Grant GPAs for you automatically, please use the following guidelines to manually calculate GPAs. Use unweighted 4.0 scale, include failing grades unless they've been retaken and passed, exclude grades from PE, ROTC, or remedial courses, do not submit duplicate or multiple GPAs as it skews GPA reports and raises submit results. You'd want to contact the Commission for assistance with deleting duplicate batch GPAs. To see the GPA calculation instructions, please follow the URL listed on this slide. Now, community college GPAs are submitted by community colleges before the March 2nd and the September 2nd deadlines. They are to be used for the E3 Community College Entitlement Award and for the E2 Transfer Entitlement Award consideration. Now, to calculate community college GPA, use the following guidelines. For regular GPA calculation, these are based on 24 semester units. For reestablished GPAs, these are based on 16 to 23 semester units. Include all completed college work except for non-transferable and non-credit earning courses, and include failing grades. As previously mentioned, a student's GPA is a factor in the Cal Grant awarding process. However, there are a few exceptions whereby students can submit proof of passing a high school equivalency test in lieu of a GPA. The most common exceptions are students who attend non-accredited high schools and students who are homeschooled. Acceptable tests include the GED, SAT, ACT, the high school equivalency test or the HiSET, or the test assessing secondary completion or the TASC test. The Commission converts the test scores to a 4.0 GPA scale, and the student will be processed for award consideration. And just like GPAs, test scores must be submitted by the application deadline using the G4 GPA verification form. While this form is also used by schools that do not have Web Grants access to upload GPAs, there is a section specifically for students who submit test scores in lieu of a GPA. Moreover, former high school students who are going to college for the first time may request high school GPAs using this G4 GPA verification form. Next, let's take a look at the application process on how to apply for a Cal Grant. The path to obtaining any financial aid, including the Cal Grant, begins with completing a financial aid application. In the state of California, there are two financial aid applications. U.S. citizens, permanent residents, eligible non-citizens, and T visa holders should file the FAFSA, while undocumented students, DACA holders, U visa holders, and individuals with temporary protected status who are eligible under AB 540 should file the California DREAM Act application or the CADA. Students from mixed status families can now file CADA for MSF, which asks different pre-registration questions to lead the student to the correct application, either the traditional CADA pathway or CADA for MSF pathway. It is important to note that the CADA information is confidential and not shared with the federal government. California Student Aid Commission protects the confidentiality of all student records, FAFSA and CADA filers alike, and has never shared any information about a student's immigration status, documented or undocumented. CSAC also complies with the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, which protects the privacy of student education records. Now let's talk about the Cal Grant application deadlines, which there are two. The first is the Cal Grant priority filing deadline of March 2nd. This deadline ensures that all students, high school, college, and returning adult college students can be processed for all award types and award cycles, namely the E1 High School Entitlement Award Cycle, the E2 Transfer Entitlement Award Cycle, and the C1 Competitive Award Cycle. Therefore, all students should be encouraged to apply by March 2nd. Students can still make updates and corrections to the application after March 2nd. However, the important thing is to get the application submitted on time. The second deadline is September 2nd and is specifically reserved for students attending a California community college. There is one exception, however, for students that have been identified as foster youth. These students have an extended deadline and can still be considered for the high school entitlement E1 cycle if they apply and submit a high school GPA by September 2nd. Now, what if students miss both the March 2nd and the September 2nd Cal Grant deadlines? Well, there are other types of financial aid still available, so students should apply regardless. FAFSA filers can still qualify for federal aid, such as Pell Grant and Work Study, and some types of campus aid and scholarships. California Dream Act filers can still qualify for campus aid, such as the California Promise Grant and scholarships. However, students should also be aware of individual deadlines for each type of aid for which they are applying for, as well as college admission deadlines, as they could all be different. And lastly, this section will go over resources and additional information on how you can help your students. First, let's talk about if your students have special or unusual circumstances. Financial aid administrators have the authority to make certain adjustments to the information presented on the FAFSA or the CADA to help account for the unusual circumstances our students and their families might encounter. For example, if a family's current income or living situation no longer reflects what was in the 2023 income and tax information used on the 25-26 FAFSA or CADA application, they can reach out to the financial aid office at the school year they plan to attend to request a review of current circumstances. Colleges have the authorization to override any data that no longer applies, and with so many families experiencing job loss during the pandemic or the loss of homes during wildfires, many students qualify for special circumstances, so this is a very common practice right now. Effective in the 23-24 academic year, institutions must review all professional judgment requests from each student, so schools will need to have policies and procedures that allow for that. Listed at the bottom of the slide is a free tip sheet about how to appeal for more financial aid. You can give these to your students so they can have that resource handy. The Cal Grant appeals process is available for students who were unable to complete a FAFSA or CADA by the state priority deadline or who may have been disqualified in error. The Cal Grant Appeals G18 form should be submitted by students whose applications could not be submitted due to circumstances beyond their control, such as disqualification due to late submission because of technical issues. CSAC uses the date of first submission to determine on-time applications. To view and confirm application submission dates, students can log into their WebGrants for Students account and check their status there. Another way counselors can help their students is to advise their students to create a WebGrants for Students account. This is their student portal where they can monitor their Cal Grant, Middle Class Scholarship, and or Chafee Grant awards. They can also confirm whether or not a GPA was submitted for them, complete pending tasks, and place their Cal Grant on hold. Now let's take a look at the Cal Grant award status, which displays pending. Why? When students click Show Details, we can see what else is missing. The GPA was submitted and we can see that the student already confirmed that they are attending American River College. So what really is missing? Upon closer inspection just below, we see the high school graduation verification is pending. So this student simply needs to click the corresponding radio button to indicate that they did or did not graduate or obtain a GED. Web Grants for Students is a self-help tool and should be the first stop for students with questions about if their school submitted their GPA, whether or not they were awarded a Cal Grant Middle Class Scholarship or a Chafee Grant Award and why, how much they were awarded, how to report a school change, or how to update their contact information. So if your student asks you why they haven't received an award notification, for example, you can teach them to be their own advocates by logging into their portals first. And finally, here are some best practices you can advise your students to do. First, they should submit a FAFSA or a CADA no later than March 2nd. All students should apply for financial aid, regardless of income, since not all aid are income-based. And students should include at least one California college from every segment on their financial aid application, even if they plan on attending college out of state. Second, students should also create a Web Grants for Students account after they submit a financial aid application to complete any pending tasks and to claim their awards. And finally, students should attend a free virtual or in-person Cash for College workshop for assistance with their FAFSA or their CADA. The many volunteers that help at the workshops are knowledgeable with the financial aid process, so students should take advantage and attend at least one Cash for College event to get their questions answered. Links to the virtual and in-person Cash for College workshops have been provided at the bottom of the screen for you. Please sign up for a local Cash for College event near you. And if you have any questions after this training, please reach out to our institutional support unit by phone or email. If your students have any questions, they can contact student support by phone or email. The training unit is also available for any questions or concerns if you reach out to us through email. And if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to our listserv so you are up to date with any changes and deadlines.